It took a long time for us to get jobs. You have to have awareness about finance, and then it has to be up to date. You can't control your own emotions. You need somebody else to do it. You may
Mhm.
do a lot of analysis, but your decision making really happens through gut and intuition.
Hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Echoes After EOD. Today we are joined by Lovai Navlaki sir. He is the Managing Director and CEO of International Money Matters Private Limited and a pioneer of India's financial planning profession. He is from the very first batch of SPJIMR, which is the first for this podcast as well. So, with over 4 decades spanning corporate finance and entrepreneurship, he has seen careers, money, and leadership evolve across multiple economic and technological cycles. In this episode, we use his journey as a lens to explore lifelong learning, risk taking, decision making, and how professionals can build relevance over long term careers. So, thank you for giving your time on the podcast and welcome to Echoes After UOD.
Thank you, Arnab. It's a pleasure to be here.
So when you entered SP, that itself was kind of a risk because you were entering the first batch and it was not very well established. But after your placement, sir, I saw through your profile as well that you worked in multiple startups, sunrise industries, and then you started something of your own. So just reflecting on that fact and the decisions which you made, uh, how important is risk taking?
So I think first and foremost, natures are different. So there are people who get opportunities, and one would think very easily that they will start something of their own, but they just don't because the mental makeup is not there to do it. And then there are others who start something of their own, and it seems very apparent that no, they are not equipped to do something of their own. They better be employed. Uh, so that becomes visible over time. It was not visible to us then. When you talk about placements as an example, we struggled to find our placement. Uh, it took a long time for us to get jobs. I got my job in Nelco because I think we were fortunate. We had the HR head of Nelco who was one of the faculty. So when we were struggling for jobs, he said, "Okay, at least get us interviews." And then a bunch of us actually got into Nelco from different streams as well in the first batch.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I think that was one piece. I think after that, my career was really not so much about trying to find something which was, sunrise. I then worked with Cipla,
Hmm.
and my first two jobs were, over 9 years. I think if you keep your eyes, ears open to learning all the time, I think that helps you adapt. Because sometimes we get very stuck with our own views and think that, okay, I am Superman. I have done all of these things, so I know everything.
Hmm.
But I'm
Hmm.
sure if I sit down with you, I will learn a few things. And you may think, oh, your experience, you will know. No, I will not know everything. And I have to go in with uh, that humility when I'm talking to you.
Exactly, sir. I think we are all running in different races. We have a different path, right? And if we transition to a new path, then it is important to first understand the race, right? And not compete
Correct.
directly over going there. So for the professionals in their 20s or early 30s, right, who have started the corporate journey, what are the some advices on their financial planning which you can give to them? I understand that everybody would have a different financial goal per se, but are there common tenets of financial planning that what they should keep in mind when they're building their corporate journey from scratch after their first job?
See, I mean, some of the answers that I will give are biased because of where I come from, maybe. But I genuinely think that every individual needs to uh, identify and talk to a financial advisor. Because
Okay.
what happens is that I think we are all used to, especially younger generation in the DIY mode, that I will read up, there is enough information, and I will do it myself. So I think there is a few things that are needed for you to manage your own money. One is, of course, you have to have awareness about finance, and then it has to be up to date. So getting a competency to having the time. And therefore, when I say time means I can't say, okay, I will only do it on, Christmas Day, then next time in Holi, third time in Independence Day, I'll review all my stuff and I'll do my thing. They may not be the best time for you to act, right?
Okay.
And the third very important piece is emotion. You can't control your own emotions. You need somebody else to do it. I, for one, have a financial planner. It's not me.
Okay.
It's somebody in my team. It so happens to be somebody in my team, but I tell them, don't deal with me as a CEO. You are my advisor. You deal with me as advisor.
Mm. Mm.
So I think that is important that you have somebody, and therefore you need to select well. Don't be in a rush to talk to the first person. Oh, this person is an alumni. This person, Arnav referred, so I will do. No, his
Mm.
need may be quite different from yours. He may be your best friend, and you
Mm.
trust him for everything. But
Yeah.
his requirement is different, and you're dealing with me because you, have a certain need, and that's my expertise. And your friend may not need that.
Right. Right.
And I think that the most important requirement in managing your personal money is actually discipline more than anything else. You mentioned financial goals are different. Yes, people will have short term, medium term, long term goals.
Mm.
Your for your long term goals, you don't need to take action every day,
Mm.
right? Once you've done it, it's done and in place.
Right.
That these
Right.
are their long term goals, and this is the action I've taken. For the short term goal, probably the most important thing is liquidity. So
Mm.
again, I am not in any race over there.
Mm.
For the medium term, yes, there needs to be little bit of thinking, some tactical play if you want, if at all.
Mm. Mm.
And
Understood.
so I think that discipline comes with somebody who's doing this full time, has the competence.
So first you mentioned that there should be a financial advisor. So normally what happens in different homes is that the parents themselves, they tell that what they have done, what their experiences were. And the children also basically inherit their risk appetite or
Correct.
what actions they had taken, right? So first question is, how do we get a neutral person who just has the knowledge and sees the finance from the perspective as it should be seen from the larger picture? And second, sir, in terms of information, right? So I myself try to follow financial content and see what are the judicious things I should do. But right now, internet is overflowing with that content. There are so many YouTube videos, so many things which people are suggesting. Then how to filter out the clutter and make the best plan for myself in case I am absorbing that knowledge, right? As a 20 or 30-year-old. How should I go about it?
Yeah, both are very difficult questions. So I think a lot of our behavior with money is very driven by our experience when we were growing up.
Right.
So if I grew up through very tough times, it is unlikely, even if I have pots of money, I will be comfortable with blowing it away because I will always be thinking of in what happens if there is a rainy day. Uh, so I think that's one aspect. So one needs to figure out. I think the important thing to recognize is that whoever's advice you're taking, you need to figure out whether that is current. That's one part. So I think for finding the advisor, there is currently in India a slight issue because the number of advisors uh, in the country are limited. The number
Mm.
of intermediaries are many, but
Right.
then they come with a product agenda. I have to sell you an insurance policy. I have to sell you a mutual fund.
Exactly.
A financial planner or an investment advisor, that number is lesser. But if you could find one, and there are websites where you could actually search for such people, then those people will act as what we call them as fiduciaries, which means that they will act in your interest.
So, sir, we have
Their
to go
object
to Google and just search for financial planners in case we want to search for these people.
financial
Or
planners, investment advisors, and the
investment
investment
advisors. Okay.
advisors, there is a body called Association of Registered Investment Advisors, that is ARIA,
Okay.
that will have a list of people who are members, uh, and then you can search for them. You could also search on a Google saying investment advisors in India, and I'm
Mm.
sure there are a few sites which aggregate this.
Understood.
But it is
Okay.
important for you to, after you pick one or two or three, do little diligence
Hmm.
that, okay, I'll read up about them, I will find out, then talk to one or two before you jump in it.
Got it. So from what I get from this is that we should be do our due diligence. We should not leave everything and delegate everything to a person, but rather first see that if we are making the right choice. And then there can be some people who have some vested interest in selling their product, but that would be very apparent after we communicate with them, right? That if they are really looking at the portfolio neutrally or they are trying to sell something, right? And then also we have a choice as to how should we progress post selecting a person.
Yeah, I think the questions that the person asks are probably a giveaway. If I am
Hmm.
asking you questions about yourself, is one set, and there'll be another set who are only telling you all what they know and what the
Yeah.
features of a product are. If the
Hmm.
starting point is that, it's very apparent. Now the problem is finance, personal finance is not a subject in schools, colleges. I did try a few years ago to tell SPJIM that I can come and do this course for people who are going to finish MBA. It's very important as a skill set for people to know how to manage money, or at least what questions to ask.
Yeah,
So that,
exactly.
the question that to ask itself you don't know. How do I
Exactly.
ask? How do I select what you are asking me now? And it's not just a straight answer of this 30 seconds that I'm giving you, right? It's deeper than that.
So I
One can
wholeheartedly
actually,
agree to that point because I know that what the experiences of my fellow colleagues and my batchmates also are. Everybody is trying to understand money at this point, and no one is like going to the courses which we studied in college, to be very honest. But this is the primary thing which everyone is trying to optimize for. But we don't know where to start from, how to proceed, and everybody has a different source of understanding this as well. So I think that course or someone who can make us understand these concepts from scratch, that would be very useful.
yeah, I mean, ideally it should be, senior school onwards, it should be personal finance should be part of the course itself.
Yeah.
But at least I know I can influence SPJN, so maybe I will try again.
Definitely, sir. Perfect, sir. And when you was mentioning about your journey as well, I could see that you have experienced both the type of worlds. First, you had worked as an employee, and then you also started something of your own. So I wanted to understand because there would be many people who are also in different boats, and some are in the transitional period where thinking about starting something of their own. So, what is the mindset shift which you experienced in both the worlds, and how did you exactly make that decision?
I think when I started this, it was totally by chance. It was just that uh, there was no job that I had for a
Okay.
while. It took me 1.5, 2 months to land a job offer, and it was enough time for me to figure out, oh, this is a great thing to do. It's
Hmm.
also so happened that I did not have a home loan and a personal loan outstanding
Hmm.
at that time. So
Yeah.
I didn't have the pressure of, oh, or even my day-to-day needs, I need to worry about where am I getting income from. I think those things, of course, help. But I think for people who are shifting, uh, definitely they need to uh, make sure the finances are in order. The why they are doing it is important. Uh,
Hmm.
there and I suppose there will be psychometrics that you can actually do to figure out, how resilient are you, how optimistic are you, how much of, how much will you persevere. Because a typical complaint for entrepreneurs about entrepreneurs is they are perennially optimistic, right? They have a cause. It,
Yeah.
it may seem very big to someone, it may feel very tiny, but for them it feels like, oh, boss, this is the greatest thing on earth.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make the world is going to change as a result of this. So I think to be able to uh, understand whether it's actually happening, uh, how quickly you're able to pivot from that becomes important. Yes, you need to have the ability to take risk, to rely on some bit of or a large bit of intuition and gut. So you may
Hmm.
do a lot of analysis, but your decision making really happens through gut and intuition.
Thanks for
Yeah.
that answer, sir. I think it is super insightful. And now I've exhausted the questions of this podcast, but I have a final rapid fire round, sir, for you. I will just request you not to think about the answers much, but just give me the first word which is coming to your mind. Perfect. I will just start with the question, sir. So, a habit that quietly contributed most to your long-term success.
Discipline,
Okay. One mistake which young professionals worry too much about.
having all the answers.
Yes, okay. A book or idea that changed how you think about money or decision making in general.
Uh, Not a book, but I would say the magazine Intelligent Investor, which then became Outlook Money, pretty much early on in the days, the magazine to go to for personal finance.
So, what according to you is the most underrated leadership quality?
Humility.
So, one piece of advice you would give your 25-year-old self, or just fresh out of college.
I think focus more on learning than on earning.
Wow. That also rhymes, sir. So that has a resonance to it. Perfect. That ends the rapid fire as well, sir. Thank you so much for your answers. And more than that, thank you for your time. I am sure this would be really insightful for the listeners, and it was really insightful for me as well. So thank you again, sir, for your time on the podcast.
Thank you, Arnav. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.